years. Joining me right now is legendary investor Foster Friess. He is also a backer of former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. Foster, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Maria, it's a delight to be here. I just got back from Helsinki. First time I ever flown first class on Lufthansa. You ought to try it, even if you don't have to go anyplace. It's unbelievable, their service.
Wow, isn't that wonderful?
Know what to do it.
It sounds like you're coming off a very nice trip there, Foster. What's your take on what's triggering this global market sell-off? You certainly are coming home to a big story for markets.
Well, I think we should look at where is the market versus 18 months ago. Yes, we should have these corrections from time to time, and I think I've seen the world come to an end 7 different times, and I'm still a survivor. At age 70, I figured out the secret to a true successful life. 4 things: good dog, good horse, good woman, and a John Deere tractor. So this afternoon I'll be pulling a bush hog. But I think people get very alarmed here at the rate of change, and I would just suggest that this is a time where you start looking at some of the opportunities that stocks that might be holding well in this market. And also remember, every time there's a negative, like if gas prices are declining, that's a positive for some other industries. If you look at the very, very low interest rates, people say, gee, that's really great to spur industry, but it's very bad for people on fixed income. So for every negative, there's a positive out there, and our job as investors is to go out and find them.
Here's a silver lining for you. Here's Charlie Gasparino, Foster.
How you doing, Foster? Your old friends here. I remember back in the late 90s, you went 90% into cash during the stock market bubble, the tech bubble. You obviously got crushed. Was that like a learning experience for you when as this is going on right here?
Well, it taught me to stick to your principles, because what we did, Charlie, is when the earnings are deteriorating and people are not meeting expectations, we just stick to our principles and don't invest in companies, and that was the situation. Stocks were going up because people were fleeing the Asian markets and going into American stocks that were, quote, high quality, close quote, even though their earnings were deteriorating. So I learned, because we subsequently were heralded by the Wall Street Journal for our success in being one of the best performers 2 years later, is that you don't look at the short term so much, and you look at your principles of buying companies that are well managed, seasoned, that are growing well and are doing great things. If you look at the gyrations of the market in the last 20 years, it didn't affect some of the real sterling
But what made you
companies.
pull the trigger right then? I mean, I guess the investors would like to get into the psychology of someone like yourself. I mean, you pulled the trigger pretty radically. I mean, listen, 2 years later, okay, you look good, but you went through 2 rough years. What made you pull the trigger right then?
Well, actually, I think we only went through maybe 1 bad quarter. I have to look back. I think we were up. Yeah, well, we were up 3%, and the market's up 13%. So we didn't lose money. That's the key point. So yes, we didn't outperform the internet stocks, which went crazy. So I think what caused me to pull the trigger is, as I said, just have a disciplined investment theory, buy companies that are growing rapidly, that are well managed, and selling at reasonable PE ratios. That's not too hard to do. And if you don't find those opportunities, then stay in cash. And when I went to, actually, I think it was 76% cash. We found that companies were deteriorating their earnings and people didn't see it coming. But it didn't matter, because just like people are selling stocks maybe somewhat irrationally, they were buying stocks irrationally.
Good point.
Foster, we've been talking about monetary policy versus fiscal policy. We got to get into presidential politics with you. I know you're a backer of Rick Santorum. Why do you think he is the one to actually, bring onto the stage fiscal policy and get the economy strengthening and sustained growth?
Well, he is very much a champion, as you maybe remember his book, Blue Collar Conservative. 74% of Americans who have not graduated from college. Now, I graduated from college, but I've been pretty much an underdog most of my life that was blessed by the American dream. Lynn and I came out of the Army with $800 of cumulative leave pay, and I think he understands that dynamic. He understands we can't move forward with all these ridiculous regulations. They have to be reasonable. Yes, we need regulations. And number 2, he was able to get elected in Pennsylvania 2 times where there were 1 million more Democratic voters than there were Republican voters. He was the first one who rolled back a entitlement from the government when they got rid of the welfare abuses. The Welfare Reform Act was championed when he was 38 years old. So he understands how our economy works. But most importantly, if you look at the major issue facing our nation and our world, who is it? Or what is it? Is it immigration? Is it health care? Is
what
it
is it,
education?
Foster?
It's the, quote, you ready for this? The global jihad movement. And people aren't paying enough attention to that. Everyone talks about ISIS, and the next day it's Taliban, then it's Al-Qaeda, then it's Al-Houthi. And so unless we realize and put all the dots together that we have a huge opportunity to confront, we are in basically World War III. If you look at the World Trade Center, that was this generation's Pearl Harbor. And we're in denial. Do we think that this is going to suddenly stop?
So it's about, and that's what this sell-off is about this morning in terms of growth in the economy. Do you think the Federal Reserve is going to raise rates next month?
Well, remember, our philosophy, Maria, was to ignore those kinds of interest rate challenges and the overall economy. If I called a company and they said, we think grow 12% if the economy does well, we would just say thank you very much and go on to another company, because we want to have a company that will grow 12% despite the economy.
So you say it doesn't matter if they raise rates or not? What are you saying?
Well, you look at when rates were raised in the past, and then go see if you can find companies that made a lot of money, and you certainly will find them. So I'm not the one to talk to about interest rates, because we tried to make that irrelevant in our investment decisions.
But Foster, let me ask a question about the global growth. You're very good on this stuff. Why hasn't the world grown faster coming out of the last financial crisis?
Well, boy, I'm not the guy to ask that of, but I'm very complimented you asked me such a high-powered question. I'm not as smart as you guys think I am. I'm just a little old stock picker that had a good theory.
So you say you're looking for companies that are going to grow 12%. Are you actually finding companies right now growing 12%? And tell us what some of them are.
No, I was using it just as a figure of speech. I was just mentioning if a company was telling us they were going to grow at any rate, 5%, 20%, but it was dependent on the economy. The point I was trying to make is we tried to find companies that weren't dependent on the overall economy, that weren't dependent on interest rates.
But are you finding those quality kind of companies that have potential to grow fast in this kind of economy right now? Are they there?
I'm 75 years old. I'm going to be in my John Deere tractor this afternoon. I left the market 12 years ago, and I've got a little money in my mattress and a little money I left in the Brandywine funds. But I'm not following stocks on a day-to-day basis. But that's for you to get some of your smart hedge fund guys to answer. All
right, we'll be watching this market. Foster, we love your insights. Thanks so much for stopping by.
It's a delight to be with you, Marie. Always is. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be asked.
And back to you. Thank you so much. Foster Freeze joining us there. Up next.